Hey, welcome in, guys. It is time for Bollox Talks and Tangents. That means it's 6:34 on Thursday. I got my man Lenny in studio. You have a full voice, right?
I am full-throated.
Full? Okay, that's awkward and uncomfortable. And
well, I'm sorry you feel that way.
Please don't use that term again.
Don't.
We don't want to be the origin.
But that was gonna be my word of the week next week.
No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. All right, in studio, I got Blake Blevins pushing all the buttons, making everything happen. Even though I never know which camera to look at, he kind of just points to each one as we go. But we got an exciting show. We got a fun show. It's about travel, transportation, vacations. You got everything written everywhere. I can't read a damn thing you wrote.
Neither can I. Don't feel bad.
Well, then it's going to be a pretty awkward show because I only got like 4 things to talk about.
Don't you worry.
They're all important.
Okay.
All right, but
and half of them go boom.
This week's whiskey of the week is Jefferson, President number 3, Jefferson, and you can tell we like this one.
Yes, yeah. It's not much left in the bottle. Yeah.
You can tell this one's one we like.
Right.
So it's a good solid bourbon, to get you through the show.
And we'll come back to that after we thank our very generous and gracious sponsors.
Hey, it's my gimmick.
Sorry.
Oh, you stepped on. Oh,
boy,
Lenny, you get your voice back and you're in trouble.
I guess the camera's going to be on you for the rest of the show. Oh well, but I'm so pretty.
But that is a good shirt you got on.
Thank you. Well, this is my tourist shirt.
We're gonna flash to your shirt. Just that.
Just flash the shirt. You don't want me to flash. We want to keep our audience. We want to keep our audience.
Blake's already flashed the group at the Mike Davis show. All right, so we do have to talk about our amazing sponsors. Our amazing sponsors, St. Augustine Distillery and Citygate Spirits. Citygate Spirits located on Sponsor Row. They have some great whiskeys and spirits in there. Cool flavors. Some
great
things
flavors
you've never tried before. Give them a chance. Go over there. Check them out. Go through the tasting. You will not be disappointed.
Right.
Walk a little bit down the road. If you get a little hungry, and you're like, oh, I need a little nourishment, you go to Meehan's Irish Pub. They have great food, 3 bars in one.
Ooh.
Reggie, I've seen Reggie this week already, so he doesn't want to see me again.
He's out running someplace.
Yeah, but, go see those guys. Amazing staff, great food, solid whiskey selection. I just drink Jameson there. I can't really.
A lot of places have wine lists. Meehan's has a whiskey list.
Yes.
They've got, I think they have quite possibly the largest collection of Irish whiskey in the States.
Yeah, they have some really unique Irish whiskeys.
Some phenomenal stuff. It's impressive.
They got the bottle. I don't even know how many bottles I have up there. I mean, I think they just empty them out and put them up there and don't put somebody else's name on it. I've had so many up there now.
That's it. Well, you're the Jameson man.
Yeah, so Jameson gets a lot of damage done at Meehan's from me.
Yeah.
All right, St. Augustine Pirate Museum, also on Sponsor Row, right there across from the fort. Amazing exhibits they have. They have 800 original artifacts in there, constantly changing, constantly growing. If you were there 2 years ago, it looks completely different than what it does today. Go by, give them a chance. You got family coming in town. Treat them to the Pirate Museum.
It's fun for all ages, too. Adults as well as children find a lot of things to do there. It's not like you bring the kids and the adults are bored. Believe me when I tell you, I was not bored.
No, it's impressive, and you are going to learn something when you walk through those doors.
Yeah.
You're going to go, I had no idea.
Right.
Hopefully that's what happens tonight on the show.
Well, I think we got some real interesting stuff going on.
Yep. All right. River and Fort Restaurant, located right there on the river and across from the fort. Pretty fancy naming, just going to say.
Well, they don't have to give directions.
Yeah, they know. You know exactly where they are. They're at that curve right there at the fort. Great location.
Beautiful build out.
Their rooftop deck is probably the best place to watch the sun Well, I guess you can't watch it come up, but
Well, if you sleep on the porch, yeah.
yeah, you had a rough night.
Yeah.
You had a rough night. But it's a beautiful view as the sun's going down. It's going right across the inlet there in the fort. Just a great view. Best place in town to have a drink and end your day. So River and Fort, give them a chance. They are available if you want to do parties and you want to do different things like that also. If you want to do a wedding or something like that, 70 people and below, the place you got to call is the Roosevelt Room. Their event space, to me, is one of the most beautiful event spaces in town.
Right on St. George Street.
They have an amazing breakfast and lunch in there, but the event space, to me, is underutilized.
Well,
It's right there on St. George Street, and I can tell you, it puts you in the heart of the city.
Right.
If you want to throw a party, a fundraiser, or anything, private company event, give them a call at the Roosevelt Room.
Well,
I talked to them yesterday, and they're just excited to be a sponsor.
I was going to say, they're still a little bit new in town, but thanks to their sponsorship with us, the word will get out, and we're going to help
They
them.
said it's
We're going
already
to help them build. Good.
They said it's already happening, which made me feel great about
Good.
it. All right, these guys, I talked to them today. Abare, Kresge, and Associates. He said my extension's coming to an end. I got to get some stuff to him.
Ooh.
So appreciate those guys over there. Billy Abare, always doing an amazing job with trying to keep all my businesses in order, which is not an easy task. I sometimes forget. But the one I do remember every Thursday is Coquina Coast Realty. Coquina Coast Realty, we do commercial, we do residential. We can help you get through a lot of processes that a lot of other realtors can't provide for you. Give me a call at 904-669-7901. If you're wondering why I'm talking fast, we have so much information out there that I'm trying to rush through at the beginning so we get everything in at the end.
And as usual, you and I are going in completely different directions that will merge together.
Wait, hold on. Aren't you forgetting the most, the greatest realtor in
I
St.
threw it
Augustine?
in there. I got it in at the end.
Oh, you did?
He's nodding off already.
Wow. Oh, my goodness.
5 minutes in, my son's nodding off on me.
Blake.
I was proud of myself for getting it in. I segued directly to it.
Sorry, reflex happened.
You missed that beautiful seg.
It's a full-service realty.
Oh.
Commercial, residential, suggestions, helping with paperwork and processing.
Helping you getting through the whole process. I'm there for you.
The man knows the city.
Blake's wanting his inheritance to get bigger, so give me a call.
Yeah, right.
All right, word origins.
Okay.
All right, and this one's one I had last week, and I forgot about it, and I didn't use it, but I wanted to use it, and I can't fathom it. I can't fathom it.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Teach me.
do you know the origin of this in any way?
I do not.
All right. So a fathom, you know what a fathom is, right?
It's a measure of distance in the water.
It's the depth in the water.
Yeah.
And it's about how much?
I want to say 13 feet, is it?
It's 6.
Well, I just exaggerate.
Well, and I knew a fathom was about 6 feet, 6 feet deep. I didn't know that. I didn't know where the word came from. So a fathom comes from outstretched arms. So they obviously measured a man taller than you and I.
Exactly.
So, and then as it became outstretched arms, became closed arms, which means embrace. So fathom actually is a synonym of embrace.
Interesting.
And I never put that together.
It's hard to correlate.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, so I can't embrace it. Is basically what I can't fathom it.
All right.
And now it makes sense, right?
Okay.
I never put that together because I always knew
wouldn't.
it as a measurement.
Right. Of depth.
Of depth. I mean, like you said, you thought it was a Mark Twain thing,
Right.
but it goes way earlier. It's Old English, and it goes way earlier. And it goes into Old Saxon, the outstretched arms. I mean, and the fendum, which is a measurement of 6 feet. So it all goes back to an outstretched arms of equaling about 6 feet. And then it
big wingspan.
It transitioned into embrace. And the word fathom became a synonym for embrace. So I guess
That's-
if you're waiting for a hug,
Right.
that's outstretched. You're waiting for a hug, and it might have transitioned that way.
I'm going to go fathom some people that I like.
Yeah, you should. You should. We might fathom at the end of this just because, we
can.
It's a good show.
That's right.
And you're going to miss me.
I will.
All right. What's your first word order?
My first one is, and this goes back to, interestingly, Happy Days in Jump the Shark. And I always wondered, I never understood that terminology, to jump the shark. I mean, I knew the visual. I knew Fonzie on his water skis jumping over the caged shark. And that was in an episode in 1977 when the show was in its decline.
It was that early?
In 1977 episode, yeah.
Oh, I thought it was
But the
later.
term came about in, where'd it go? 1985.
Yeah, I mean, it basically means you've kind of given up.
Right.
And you're trying to do
Right.
whatever stick you can do
That's
to save the
that's
show.
exactly right.
Like on the Cosby Show, they throw in a little kid.
Right.
And that's usually the jump the shark move.
Right.
Is on old sitcoms, they'd add a little kid to the mix.
Right, trying to resuscitate something, pump some life back into something that's really fading fast on its way out. But in 1985, a DJ by the name of John Hein, Hein, coined the phrase. He was a radio personality, and he coined the phrase "jump the shark" in response to that episode where the Fonz did it, and it's basically a cheap stunt.
Yeah.
It's a cheap stunt to try to bring something back from pretty much dead.
It wasn't bad enough when they had Fonz jump over the trash cans
Yeah.
on the motorcycles.
Yeah.
That was pretty bad. But then they had Fonz awkwardly jump the shark. Do you remember the episode?
He was not graceful on his water skis.
Yeah. No, well, it was horribly done because he wasn't actually on the skis as he's faking to be on water skis.
Right.
I think he actually would have done better if they just let him on the water skis and let him crash into the shark.
That would have worked.
And
then the shark could have eaten him, and then he wouldn't have jumped it, and then the show would have been a hit.
Yeah. So there would have been no jumping of the shark. They'd let it end, and it would have all been over.
Yep. Well, sorry, Henry.
All right, Happy Days trivia question.
Okay.
Did you watch Happy Days?
Occasionally.
Occasionally you watch Happy Days. All right, so you know Joni and you know Richie.
Yes.
There was an older brother. Do you remember what the older brother's name was? Blake, do you have any idea?
I do.
Have you ever seen one episode of Happy Days?
No, I have not.
So he doesn't even know what the Fonz is or Potsy Weber.
I do, because this has come up at trivia regularly, and it goes in one ear and out the other. It's not Edward, is it?
Chuck.
There you go.
Chuck.
And he was
Chuck
a basketball
was the-
player, so I'll remember Chuck Taylor's. Okay.
Yeah, Chuck was the oldest of the Cunninghams. When Richie got drunk, what song did he sing?
I haven't the faintest idea.
Found my thrill.
On Blueberry Hill.
Yeah. So, all right. My second one. This one applies to you and I.
Handsome man?
Close.
All right.
Can't teach an old dog new tricks.
So true.
Okay?
So true.
So, the origin of can't teach an old dog new tricks goes back to 1534. That's the first time it was used written, so that means it was probably older than this.
Okay. Shakespeare?
Nope.
Hallelujah.
All right. This idiom or proverb has been circulating for over 500 years. Originally appeared in Fitzherbert's Book of Husbandry in 1534,
Okay, so
referring to the
that's
fact
farming.
that it's easier for a young dog to learn new behavior than it is teaching a dog to follow a scent. So, and then later, if you fast forward to the more recent years of 1721, Noah Bailey wrote a book, his book, Diverse Proverbs, An Old Dog Will Learn New Tricks. In writing this, Bailey referring to humans and the difficulty, if impossible, them learning something new or changing behavior. Being able to change your behavior is one of the more awkward things. And the bad part, not the bad part, but the strange thing is, as I was doing the research on this, and I suggest people go and do this, we don't have enough time for all of it, but it's kind of like the golden rule.
Okay.
Everybody kind of has this form of proverb in it. So like, and the Italians is like more direct, like you're old, you're stupid. But
My people.
like there's one that's like, I think the French had something about you can't teach an old monkey or something like that, and it's just really really strange, and it's just a proverb that got moved from culture to culture. So I mean, like the golden rule, doing
to others, exactly.
You'd want done it, but that's every culture has that, and almost every religion has some form of that.
Well, that's something I'm looking forward to doing one day in the future is universality, because there's so many similar things in different cultures, especially in food in particular, that your kreplach, your wonton, your dumpling, things of that nature. There's a lot of things to do, and I think we can talk about that one day. All right, you want my second one?
I want your second one, please.
All right, and what's tonight's theme?
Tonight's theme is vacations, travel, and tourism.
Okay.
Okay.
So you know where the word vacation comes from?
Vacation. It comes from Chevy Chase.
Well, that's it. When he went on vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Griswolds.
Exactly right. And then he plugged and then everything lit up.
That was the Christmas vacation.
I know. Well, he did a lot of vacating.
It's not as good. It's not as good.
Well, Wally World is,
Yeah. Florida doesn't close.
No. Vacation came from, and we'll talk about this later, I'm sure, the rich people, when they were getting warm in the hot seasons, they would actually vacate their homes.
Okay.
And vacating their homes became a vacation, and that's where the word originated. And it actually replaced in our lexicon the British term of holiday. The Britons and the Europeans go on holiday. Mm-hmm. We go on vacation.
Yeah.
And that came from rich people vacating their houses, primarily in New York City or their mansions, whether you're on Beacon Hill, whether you're on the Gold Coast someplace. That's where that came from.
Yeah, I never put that together.
Yeah.
Completely makes sense.
Found it in my research.
Yeah, I probably should know that as being a member of the Tourist Development Council.
Well, now you have it.
All right. So the term tour
Okay.
and tourism, tourist, all right? And that comes from the modern concept of tourism, which goes back to the 17th century. Because before then it was exploration, and you really didn't leave for leisure.
Well, I'm going to back you up a couple of centuries.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you're absolutely correct, because that's when it became a little bit more mass appeal. Mm-hmm. But the first people that would go on vacations or holidays were actually the Romans. Mm-hmm. Because they had built this whole system of roads, the Appian Way, and the Romans built roads wherever they went.
Yes.
And when they were in a time of peace and not in a belligerent situation of war, they had time to go and take these roads to go see places and go to the shore and do other things. Mm-hmm. So actually, the Romans were the first people that went on vacation.
So they did it for leisure.
Exactly.
I didn't see that.
Exactly.
I saw they went to family members and they went to some of those things, but I never saw that they did.
And only in time of peace.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I would think so. You don't want to wait until,
The Appian Way might have been the only road.
Right.
So, all right. So, tourism dates back to the 17th century when young nobles from Western and Northern Europe countries made what was called the Grand Tour. They would do a Grand Tour, a trip around Europe, usually covering France, Germany, Italy, and Greece, with the main purpose of soaking up history, art, and cultural heritage. It was considered a perfect way to be educated.
Right, and it was educated people and wealthy people that went.
It was only the nobles.
Right, exactly. So the educated, they had a good head start, and they would go to the cultural hubs of the world and the world capitals.
But they would go on tour, and even bringing it back to St. Augustine. When people came to St. Augustine, most of the hotels you had to pay for like 3 months at a time.
Right, like the Ponce de Leon.
Yeah, and you'd have to pay for that. There was some hotels, I think the Florida House was one of the few nightly hotels that was in town that burnt down in the fire of 1915.
Oh, later than the 1888-ish fire.
The 1888 fire was the St. Augustine Hotel, which is where the Treasury sits.
Where the Treasury sits.
Yeah.
Wasn't there something on the spot where the New Renaissance is also?
That fire was independent of the big fires of the city. Okay. Those happened that one was the San Marco Hotel. And that fire took place in the 1890s, but it just was confined to that hotel, which only lasted for 9 years. And that was the northernmost hotel in town.
Okay.
So it basically started where the parking garage is, and it reached to, Castillo, West Castillo didn't exist. It reached to where the Renaissance is today. So, and that happened in like the 1890s. But the two big fires was 1887,
right,
which is where I said the Treasury was. That's when the basilica burnt down,
right,
and was gutted.
It scarred the cathedral.
Prior to that, when they rebuilt it, they built the wings on the basilica and the tower.
Right.
So if you see a picture of the tower at the cathedral, that came after 1887. So.
And what a beautiful, beautiful church that is.
Yeah.
The inside it's stunning in there. Really, it's very lovely.
When that hotel burnt down, I think it was Colonel Vale, Vale Park and Vale Point in that area. Vale owned that entire block. So Flagler was already building his hotel, the Ponce.
Yeah, I have a theory about that, but I'll leave it be.
He was already building his hotel, the Ponce. And he went to Captain Vale, who owned the block, who owned the St. Augustine Hotel, and we're talking 1887, and said, listen, I'm building this hotel. I've got another one planned. I need some retail. And that's how the Vale block became retail instead of replacing it with another hotel. Vale was going to do another hotel. Flagler gave Vale a loan for $35,000 to create a retail of that block where Le Macaroon is, Traywinds.
Yeah.
That entire block
Charlotte
was
Street.
very dense. There was a brothel along Charlotte Street along with a men's club like an Elks or whatever it was, but it was like one of those type of
fraternal organization.
Well, so they could gamble. And then coming closer.
And take the winnings next door.
Yeah, and then the building I'm in came in 27. But the second fire, which took out the Florida House, which was probably the largest hotel, I think it had over 500 rooms. That was largest hotel that was a nightly stay. Because Flagler's were
it was seasonal.
3 months, and you basically had to pay for
one
everything.
price. Yeah, if you stayed for 2 weeks, you stayed for 3 months.
You went on tour. You didn't just go on vacation.
Right.
But the Florida House, that fire where it originated in the Florida House, happened in 1915, and that's when most of the city burnt from Treasury all the way down to Coquina. And that's the one that took.
That's a big bunch.
It took out a lot of the city, and that's the one that took out the Opera House.
Right.
And the Opera House is located where the Roosevelt Room is.
Wait, we used to have an opera house?
Well, wait a second. The original Opera House wasn't the original Opera House on Cathedral Place.
No, the original Opera House was not on the Cathedral Place.
I know on St. George Street.
On St. George Street.
So was that a movie theater on Cathedral Place?
What was on Cathedral Place was a movie theater that came in after.
Okay.
It came in after even the fire of 1915, and that was the Matanzas Theater.
Right.
So the Matanzas Theater held almost 1,500 people. So
allegedly haunted, just for the record.
It could be, but a majority of it is in the parking lot. So they're kind of running around, torturing cars now. But if you walk,
where they found Richard III.
If you walk into Trip Harris and walk straight, and then you took a right, then you were in that theater, the Matanzas Theater.
Okay.
The black residents had to enter from Charlotte and the other side, but the main entrance, if you Google in the 1950s, a movie called Distant Drums.
Oh, yeah.
With Gary Cooper. Yeah. It premiered at that theater, and it was a big, I think it was in 54 or 55, a big hoopla.
I'll look that one up later.
Yeah, so Distant Drums was one of the ones that came from there. All right, so we got so much stuff to talk about. I went in a completely different direction. I kind of went by transportations that interest me, and I wanted to find out more about them.
Okay.
Which way did you go?
I went pretty much automotive, and how the road system, how guidebooks, all expanded on mass tourism. and how that happened. Because I remember as a kid, it was my parents were school teachers, so we had summer vacations. We had Christmas holidays, things like that. And I remember piling in the family station wagon and driving down. And God bless my mother. Actually, today's my father's birthday, but God bless my mother. Every freaking welcome to Virginia, welcome to South Carolina, welcome to North. We were taking pictures in front of every one of those signs when you crossed the border into a new state.
Did you ever stop and jump into the other state?
No.
Okay.
No. Didn't cross back over? No.
Yeah.
No.
So,
but did count all the billboards on the way down to south of the border.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pedro says.
They're still there.
Yes, they certainly are.
There. Sombrero's
yes, they
still
are.
there.
Yep.
So, when we did the walk, that was one of the big things to make sure you jumped into the other state.
Yeah, right.
You just
do that. Yeah. But yeah, that was my mother's gig. Stand in front of the sign that says welcome to South Carolina, welcome to Florida. So I get a kick in when we cross borders driving, north and south. And that back then it wasn't 95 necessarily, or 95 may have just opened, because 95 opened in the late 60s. They finished I-95. Otherwise, it was US 1.
Yeah.
And US 1 went inland more than 95 in a lot of places.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. When I did my walk, I walked US 1.
Right.
And I can tell you, on the walk, it was a little bit sad because you could see some of these older cities that were on US 1 that totally were decimated when 95 got too far away from them.
Yep, bypassed them and they lost all their commerce.
And I don't know if you ever watched the cartoon Cars.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's one of those things, when I was doing my walk, I related directly to that because the cities were, like I said, they were just crushed by the interstate system.
Yeah.
But the interstate system was completely necessary.
Oh, yeah.
And, Eisenhower's the one who kind of pushed a lot of that to make it happen.
And it makes sense from his point of view, being, the Allied Supreme Commander and then President. Mm-hmm. The interstate system was actually designed to move military vehicles in a time of crisis across the country. Mm-hmm. So that's how it's designed. It was designed originally to move military vehicles from one side of the country to the other, or where they needed to go as quickly as possible because of the development of that Eisenhower interstate system.
Because we couldn't defend here to there if we couldn't get people there.
Correct.
So,
correct. However, the first person to do that, by the way, in 1903, a guy by the name of Horatio Nelson Jackson, go figure, what were his parents thinking, was a doctor, and his buddy Sewall Crocker went coast to coast.
Betty's husband?
Could be. Could be. But they went coast to coast in 1903. And then, it's the internet. So you get one says it was 71 days. You get the next citation said it was 63 days. They used between 600 and 800 gallons of gas. And depending on which one, it was either in a Packard or it was in a Winton, whatever a Winton is. And these guys, 71 days.
They couldn't even tell you what car it was in?
Well, I got two different cars from two different citations. The Winton only took 63 days. The Packard took 71.
Obviously, the Winton was the way to go.
I would take the Winton. I'm with you. But those guys did that in 1903. A lot of people don't necessarily realize, or certainly I don't realize every now and again, automobile travel started very, very early in the United States. Mm-hmm. The guy, Benz, he was making his first cars in 1886. Carl Benz had his first car.
That was in Germany, though.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But the first cars in the United States started like in 1893.
Yeah.
It was fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
The 10 Lizzie or whatever it was.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the A, the T.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
But you're going airborne.
Well, no. I'm going the other way.
Seaborne.
No.
Now I'm all confused.
Predating automobile.
Okay.
So predating automobile, and this will take us to our break, this section of it. Stagecoach.
Oh, yeah.
So the stagecoach, and I didn't know why the stagecoach got its name, and that actually started in England also. And the stagecoach was called that because the coaches about every 15 miles would transition. The horses would change. Right. They would eat something. They would take a break, or that's where they would stay. They would stay at the inn at those transition stations. But it started in England, all right? But the first stagecoach in the U.S. was in 1827.
Wow, okay.
Okay? The last stagecoach where if you wanted to go west, just take a little bit of a guess of when the last one, when they closed down that service.
Well, the Pony Express was in the 1850s, 60s. I'll say the 1870s.
You missed it by just a little bit. 1915.
Okay.
So they continued to do stagecoach transportation well after automobile was available. You said the first one went in 1903.
Right. Well, that was coast to coast, yeah.
Yeah, and this was going from like St. Louis to San Francisco.
Right. Ooch.
All
That's
right?
brutal.
And they would travel about 60 or 70 miles a day, a little bit more at that point because they were doing about 5 miles an hour. The other thing that I found super interesting is, when you and I used to travel and you get on an airplane, you get a little dressed up.
Yes. Oh,
You
I got
remember
a story for that.
it was like you'd wear a nicer outfit. You possibly would wear a suit,
Jacket and tie.
Yep. It was kind of like the decorum of how you traveled. I don't think there's any decorum now. You have to go through. We all know what you have to do as far as security measures, and you can't take this much liquid and all this stuff. I guess that's now the decorum. But you can wear pajamas.
It's sweatpants and yoga pants.
All right. So one of the more entertaining things I read today, stagecoach decorum. All right. So the stagecoach decorum, and this came from the Butterfield stage line. All right. And here's some of the rules that they had in place. When the driver asked a passenger to get out and walk, one was advised to do so and not grumble about it. So in other words, if you became heavy or the horses were exhausted or something like that, you might have to get out and walk as part of it. They warn you up front that walking might be a part of your trip. All right. If the team of horses ran away, it was better to sit in the coach, just let the coach come to its own stop, because most passengers who jumped were seriously injured or died.
Right, and you're in the middle of nowhere, so you're not getting airlifted out of there.
All right. Smoking and spitting on the leeward side of the coach was considered rude and discouraged. So don't smoke and spit, where it blows into other people's face. Makes sense. Drinking spirits was allowed.
Cheers.
But just like us, passengers were expected to share. If you brought alcohol, you were expected to share.
Well, the stagecoach served a great purpose because, though there were transcontinental railroads being developed and built, it didn't go everywhere. And if you had to get someplace else, the stagecoach was probably the only way you could actually get there to smaller destinations or off the train line.
Stagecoach predated, you already talked about the Pony Express.
Right.
And even with that, it continued to do it after the Pony Express was gone.
Right, yeah.
All right. Swearing was not allowed.
Gal, dang it.
And this is one that's very important that people need to still listen to. Neither was sleeping on your neighbor's shoulder. People need to still listen to that.
Remember that on a flight, boys.
All right. Travelers, and this was on their report. This is one. Travelers should not point out spots where murders had occurred.
Bad for business.
Especially when delicate passengers were aboard.
Well, there were women that, were transported on the stagecoaches getting to and fro.
All right. This one's one I don't have a problem with. You might have a problem with. Greasing one's hair was discouraged because dust would stick to it.
This naturally curly wonder of mine?
Yeah, so don't grease her down.
Nope.
So, yeah. So, and basically it was like, there are some hardships, and the Omaha Herald in 1877, don't imagine for a moment you're going on a picnic. Expect annoyances, discomforts, and some hardships. If you are disappointed, thank heaven. And
there are bouncy rides.
Yeah.
You hit a rock. Now, just two quick thoughts before we take a break. The law of unintended consequences. and this probably dates back to England when the stagecoaches started over in England, but the stagecoaches created the advent of the highwayman. And I don't mean the painters or the musical group. It was, robbers, which, I don't necessarily know that there were people riding shotgun in England, but certainly in the United States, when you're on a stagecoach, there was always the guy next to the driver who was riding shotgun, which is why we call shotgun for the front seat next to the driver.
Well, and I did look that up because I wanted to find out how many robberies actually took place. There were 466 robberies from 1868 to I think it was 1891.
Okay.
That's a lot.
I would think so, yeah.
That's a lot. So you needed to have that person. It would
Right.
And people think it was to protect the people. It was to protect the mail.
Yeah.
All right. So
and usually there was payroll and stuff in the mail too. Yeah.
And I wanted to find out how much it cost.
Well, I was going to ask you what it was, a stagecoach fare. Thank you.
All right. So first class, $7.
First class mail.
No, first class. No. We're talking
There was classes. I mean, it's a stagecoach. You had two. What, you got to face forward
3 classes.
in a stage?
Stagecoach.
Those are bigger than the ones I'm envisioning.
First class,
Okay.
$7. Second class was like $5, and third class was $3. Second class, you had to walk in bad places on the road.
Okay.
Third class, same as above, but you also had to push up hills.
Oh, so you're working for you. You're
Yes.
working for your fare. All right, but how big were these stagecoaches then? Because, like I said earlier, great John Wayne movie called Stagecoach, and I envision them holding maybe 6 passengers.
Yeah, it was 8 to 10.
Okay, so yeah, bigger than I thought.
Yeah, and then like I said, a lot of times, I mean, they averaged about 5 miles an hour, and it was depending on as they improved, they went a little bit quicker later on.
Well, and roads became a little bit smoother. They picked rocks out of them. But I want to just double back to just a quick humorous story. So, as I said earlier, my parents were school teachers, and I have family that lived on the West Coast. First in Beverly Hills and then in Las Vegas because my uncle was an orchestra leader. As a matter of fact, when they built the Dunes Hotel, they built the gourmet club and the supper club at the top of the strip for my uncle and his orchestra, Russ Morgan and the Russ Morgan Orchestra. Mm-hmm. So I was in summer camp because I admit I was a privileged child. Thank you very much, Mother and Father. I love you dearly. Mm-hmm. And my parents were already out in Las Vegas.
Okay.
So my mother's friend, Renee Casper, my Aunt Renee, picked us up. And I got all dressed up for the plane. And I'm on the plane. And I have a bag with me. And I go to the bathroom. And I change into cut-off shorts and a T-shirt. And my mother almost fainted on the tarmac when I got off of the plane.
Oh, my gosh. Why would you do that to your mom?
You know how hot it is when you get off a plane in Las Vegas?
No, but why would you do that to your mom?
She got over it, but boy,
I'm pretty sure she was not happy.
No, not in the least. And she called Renee and said, "How could you let him get on the plane like that?" And she said, "What are you talking about? He was dressed like a perfect gentleman."
But you changed.
I did.
All right. Here's a question for you, and we're about to go to break here, or we're about to talk about our sponsors. But how old were you when you first flew an airplane, or you were in an airplane?
Oh, I was 9 or 10.
Blake, how old do you think you were?
I think it was like 10.
Okay, I can't hear you.
10 years old.
You think you're about 10?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was 22, I think.
Wow. Yeah, well, we had family on the West Coast. First we'd fly out to L.A., and then we'd fly to Vegas, and 2-3 times a year because my grandmother, brilliant woman, school teacher, matriarch of the family, built the house that my mother, grew up in, the house that I grew up in, and she was smart. She had 2 daughters. One was married to Russ, the orchestra leader, so Beverly Hills or Las Vegas. And then my mother, we lived in Long Beach. So my grandmother would summer in Long Beach at the shore, at the beach, because we were a beach community, not unlike St. Augustine Beach. Mm-hmm. And then she would winter in Beverly Hills or Las Vegas.
So what did your parents do?
School teachers. Both of them.
How could they afford all that?
They were parsimonious. Okay. Believe me, they were product of the Depression era. And boy, I passed a comment at a meal one day, and I have never seen both heads snap at me at the same time when I said something that's, like, that's just a Depression era mentality. And man, I'm surprised their heads didn't snap off their necks. And both of them, and my parents were just saintly people. I mean, anybody who knew them will attest to the fact. And I say without hesitation, I am a fortunate man for what my parents provided for me, how they raised me, the lessons they taught me, the morality they gave me. But man, oh man, ooh, I was shivering in my shoes at that dinner table when I said that, and I got that response.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yeah. It also wasn't that expensive back then. Airfare was a little bit, fine.
Yeah, so it wasn't even in our thought process.
No.
I mean, my parents now, my dad's 80, my mom's 78, have never been on an airplane.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's probably unique.
Yeah. So, no, it's not for
Well, yeah.
that and we talk about this, and Blake and I have talked about it. It was like wealthy people go on vacation.
Yeah.
And
we were not wealthy.
We were not wealthy, but
we were comfortable.
But both your parents worked.
Correct.
Which is
Correct.
super helpful.
Correct. Absolutely.
Super helpful.
And
only my dad. My mom was out a homemaker.
Right.
So I can't say only.
And my parents never having a mortgage.
We only have one income. We didn't. Both my parents worked, but we only have one income. Right. So I don't want to downplay what my mom did.
Oh, absolutely. No. Homemaker is
very crucial to
absolutely
where I'm at in my life. All right, we got to talk about our sponsors.
I think
First
we
off,
should.
We got to talk about Coquina Coast Realty. If you need anything
Blake.
residential, you need. I'm saying it now, Blake. Commercial wise, I actually have some available. Blake just called me number one. If I have some apartments available downtown. I showed you these apartments.
Beautiful. And they come with parking. So if you're looking for someplace to live, that is just out of the realm of wonderful.
I have two one-bedroom apartments that actually include power and water and Wi-Fi, so you don't have to pay for those deposits going in. Give me a call, 904-669-7901. Hit the share button if you know somebody who needs that information.
Nice apartments, too. Brand new. Yeah.
Completely remodeled. Abare, Kresge and Associates, these guys are the best. That's all you can say. CPA, if you think you can do your taxes better, you can't. You're wrong.
I know.
These guys are much, much better. All right, the Roosevelt Room, best breakfast in town, great lunch, and event space. If you have 70 people or less, a small event space, not really small, it's a pretty good size.
70 people is comfortable.
I don't like more than 70 people in my life, I don't think. So, and I'm saying that, and I have a big fundraiser, about 300 people showing up. But the Roosevelt Room is stunning. It's beautiful. And they do an amazing job there. The Shelter family, they have the Chianti Room, they have Sidecar, and they have Prohibition Kitchen along with the Roosevelt Room. But the Roosevelt Room, check out that event space if you have anything coming up. River and Fort Restaurant, I'm telling you right now, they have one of the best appetizers in town. It's called The Tower, and it's a seafood appetizer, and I'm telling you, it is as good as anything you can have. You can make it as a meal. They have a great bourbon selection. They have 3 different bars.
Beautiful wine list, too.
3 different levels. Amazing wine list. Just quality food. Give River and Fort a chance.
Yep.
St. Augustine Pirate Museum, over 800 artifacts. Cindy and the crew over there do an incredible job. We appreciate their partnership. They've been with us the entire time. And just a wonderful place. You actually went there.
I did. And for those of you scoring at home, it's the C. I'm telling you, it's the C. It's not R.
Favorite letter a pirate has is the C.
That'll come into play.
Meehan's Irish Pub. Reggie and the crew over there. What do you like? The Irish cream?
Well, I like their oysters, their drunken clams. My wife loves the mac and cheese, but yeah, the Irish cream is just, you know what? The easiest way to describe that is decadent. They make it every day. It's homemade, and it just puts the bottled spirits to shame. It's how good it is. It's rich. It's decadent and delicious.
Yeah. Last but not least, St. Augustine Distillery and City Gate Spirits. Talked to Philip today. Happy birthday, Philip. Actually, it was on Tuesday, but happy birthday week to Philip down there in Disney, trying to get it in there. These guys are constantly working, and they're working on creating new new flavors,
Great
new
flavors.
spirits, and just an amazing job. Will over there does a great job. Appreciate them being a sponsor, and many times they are our whiskey of the week. We rotate one of theirs to an outsider.
Well, you know,
And the
Jefferson's, you know,
Jefferson we've hit hard.
and it's worth it. It's delicious.
Yeah.
But you know, it's interesting because in doing my research, you know, I was intrigued to know how long it took. You know, because, you know, Thomas Jefferson went to France, came home with ice cream and French fries. Benjamin Franklin went to France, went to England. You know, these guys are flaunting back and forth. It was on a good trip, 6 weeks. 6 weeks in one of them little boats. Oh, man, if they're not puking over the rails, I give them more power because that is just 6 weeks on a good trip.
One way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
One way.
No, that was not round trip.
That was one way. All right. And I'm going to talk about the quickest way that replaced cruise liners for a little bit.
Okay.
All right. And I'm talking about Zeppelins.
Okay.
So the Zeppelins, the first Zeppelin that commercially started flying from ocean to ocean, across the ocean, was in 1914.
And how long did it take?
3 days.
Okay. They're pretty luxurious, though, when you're in those cabins.
Yeah, and Blake, while we're talking about this, if you would pull up a room, an image of the room at on the Hindenburg and the dining area on the Hindenburg.
Or Robert Plant, either one.
No Led Zeppelin, Joe.
All right, fine, fine.
Don't lose our people. Led Zeppelin. Robert Plant's great. All right. But I wanted to know how long the Zeppelins lasted. And the Hindenburg took place in 1937.
Right.
And someone asked me today when
New
I said I was doing research on it, and they said, is that what killed the Zeppelin fleet? It actually was World War II that killed the Zeppelin fleet, just because it was impossible to take trade with Germany and going back and forth from it. So, all right, you got the dining room there.
Isn't that stunning?
Look how amazing that is.
All right. It was very luxurious. They really were.
It was very luxurious.
First class.
And it cost about $450. All right, which was a mid-range ticket for an ocean liner that would take 14 to 20 days.
Back then, yeah.
On the short route.
Yeah.
On the short route. Blake, can you pull up the sleeping area? Can you find one of those in the Zeppelin?
I bet you nobody was changing into shorts in the bathroom for those trips.
No. Well, they have bathrooms.
But nobody was dumping their shirt and tie for a pair of shorts and a t-shirt.
No. That was the real deal.
Dressed for dinner.
And there it is right there. It's like a double bunk. It's very similar to a train.
Railroad train, right.
Very similar to a train.
Like a Pullman, yeah.
So I wanted to know how many people actually fit in one of these. Do you have any idea?
15, 20?
70.
Really? More than I would expect.
70. All right. And it still took like a crew of about 36. So there was almost one crew to every two persons.
Okay.
All right. In the Hindenburg, huge disaster. Everyone thinks of a huge disaster.
Yeah. The humanity.
Do you know how many people actually died? It's still horrible. Do you know how many people actually died?
I don't.
36.
Okay. How many were on the airship?
There was a little over 100. There was like 101, I think is what it was. Most of them were crew. There was only 36 passengers that happened to be on that because that was going from Newark to
Lakehurst, New Jersey.
Lakehurst.
Yeah.
And 2/3 of them actually survived. 36 people died.
Boy, I would not have guessed that.
36 people died in the Hindenburg. And I thought it was a much higher number, because you see how violent the flames are. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of the people still sustained a lot of injuries and burns and stuff like that, but there was only 36 actual deaths, and only 11 of the 36 were passengers.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's pretty. I mean, like
if you can find any kind of silver lining in that,
any kind of silver lining,
very hard to do.
It really, the numbers in comparison. Because I wanted to compare the two disasters of the Titanic and the Hindenburg.
Okay.
not really comparable.
No.
So I kind of went on a deep dive in the Titanic.
You got dark today. You went dark.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I went with things that made me scratch my head. So, sticking with the Zeppelins, the top of the Empire State Building.
Sure, mooring tower.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never would have been functional, but they sold it as a mooring for the Zeppelin.
Right.
There's no way to step off of it.
Unless you shinny down a rope.
There's no way to step off of it. But they used as an excuse to create the tower to become the tallest building in the world. So, 1932? Is that what it was? Or was it earlier than that?
What?
27.
The Empire State Building?
I think it was
Yeah,
27.
I'm not sure.
All right. Like I said, it was about $450 to do an ocean liner cross, which took about 10 days, and you could do Hindenburg, which took about 2.5 to 3 days.
Now, you know the only ocean liner that's still going transatlantic?
What's that?
Queen Elizabeth II.
Queen Elizabeth II.
Only transatlantic ocean liner still
From London
going.
to New York?
I don't know if it's London or Liverpool. I don't think it's
Okay.
London. It could be Liverpool. It could be Calais. But yeah, it's the only one that's going back and forth transatlantic now as a ocean liner for passengers.
All right. So I went to the Titanic. I was like, all right, I'm Hindenburg. Let me measure the Titanic,
Okay.
see where we're at. All right. So Titanic, on a ticket to the Titanic, the ocean liner, it was 7 pounds for a third class ticket in 1912.
Right.
7 pounds. First class suite, the cost was almost 870 pounds. This is for a suite.
Right.
This is where Rose stayed.
Right.
Not Jack. Jack won 7 pounds in his car deal, and that's how he ended up. There was room on the door, by the way. There was room on the door. All right. So
Yeah, exactly.
if you put it to inflation, that 7 pounds equates to about 850 pounds today.
Okay.
All right. You put the first class to inflation, it's about 105,000 pounds. All right.
But you know the distinction that the third class passengers had to cook for themselves and provide their own food, whereas the first class passengers was luxury all the way.
Yeah. Oh, completely luxury. So in calculation, there was about 324 first class passengers.
Okay.
All right. All right. The third class passengers, there was a second class. There were about 284 and 794 third class. Okay, those numbers don't really add up. There was another 107 on board that were mostly third class. All right. The maximum capacity, if fully booked, was 3,547 people, including passengers and crew. So that's both.
Well, the
That's the
Titanic,
total
okay.
number of people.
Okay.
Number of guests on the vessel was capable of 2,566.
Okay, so
All
about
right.
1,000 staff?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like today's cruise ships.
So there was only 1,317 passengers on the Titanic. So it was only 49% of the guest space was used. So thank goodness it was not fully.
Right. That was a ship you wanted to miss.
There was already not enough boats with a
really.
49% capacity.
Wow.
Not enough. It would have been all of the rest, if not more,
Wow.
would have been completely lost. And I didn't realize. I thought on the maiden voyage it was completely full. And I did not realize it was only 49% full the entire time.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
When I watched the movie, it looked full.
Well, that's because you kept seeing everybody behind the gate in steerage.
Yeah. The other thing that I found very interesting was just the money that was collected. It equated to, in today's dollars, the money they brought in from guests to about $2.75 million
For that one crossing.
for that one crossing for that ship. All right. The survivors sued White Star Line,
Right.
which was the Titanic, for $16 million. White Star only paid $664,000 in damages. So, now just some I went down
Rabbit
some
hole.
crazy rabbit holes today, and I absolutely was shocked with some of those numbers because I honestly always thought the Titanic was full.
Yeah, you would have been led to believe that, certainly, because it was the maiden voyage. You see it, the first movie, what was that? The one with the band was playing "Near My God to Thee." At the end of it, it was going glug 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 glug.
Yeah.
The black and white movie. It was a great movie, actually. It wasn't bad, but I don't remember the name of it.
All right. We only have time, I think, for this. Blake, we're coming to the end of our time, right?
Yeah, we are.
All right. We only have time for this last question. Tell me your best, and Blake and I have talked about our best vacation,
Right.
so we're going to go with our second best because our African trip has blown away everything that we've ever did. The safari and African trip. Blake, you would say that's number one, right?
Yes. Yes.
All right. So Blake and I are going to go with our number two.
Okay.
What's your number one trip from childhood to now?
Well, I have got to go to a trip that Julie and I took with a couple of friends of ours. We started in Paris and we went to Burgundy. Ended up doing wine tastings all through Burgundy. Stayed in a beautiful place in Chagny, a 3-star Michelin restaurant and inn called La Malois. Mm-hmm. To this day, one of the greatest meals I've ever had. It was a place where, you literally, that was such a good meal and such a good trip that I was on my hands and knees going up the stairs, getting back to our room after that dinner between the cigar and the brandies and the meal and the foie gras to start with and the foie gras in the middle of the meal. It was just brilliant. Also got pulled over by the French cops, and just finished a couple of wine tastings. We're going through Burgundy, we're drinking. Life is good, and we're in the middle of freaking nowhere in Burgundy. You got a vineyard over here, you got a vineyard over here, you got a road over here, and I come to a red light. Okay, good. I make a right on red.
You can't do that.
Apparently not, because boom. Out of nowhere, two motorcycle cops, as they would say, two flics in French, in their royal blue French uniforms, pull us over and go,
What are you doing?
I'm going, hi, how are you? Give him my paperwork and stuff. He's going, basically came down to rouge, no. Going, I got you. Okay, fine. I didn't know you could make a right on red here.
Yeah.
And basically they said, oh, you're just a dumb American. Get out of here. And they let us go.
That's good.
But that was wild.
Sometimes it's good to be a dumb American.
Oh, absolutely. But that was a great trip. I mean, ate, drank, life was good.
Mm-hmm. So Blake, what is your second favorite? Africa was our first. And
Yeah.
Africa blows away a lot of trips. We did 13 days in
Wow.
Africa in 3 different countries and zip lined from one country to the next.
Mm-hmm. So jumped over the border.
Yeah. And came
Gotcha.
back.
Right.
Came back. So
All right,
we went from Zimbabwe to Zambia.
I'm about to say our trip to Bristol, Tennessee.
Oh, that was a blast. And that was just me and you.
Yeah. Like I definitely a fun time. So we went to the Bristol NASCAR race in like August when they had a night race, and we borrowed like one of our family members' RV.
Yeah, it was my cousin. It was my cousin's RV. It was beat up and it was foggy. And Blake fell asleep, and I couldn't see more than like 10 feet in front of me as I'm driving through the mountains. And it was like I was doing 25 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But we made it alive, and it was just him and I. And that was an amazing trip.
It was.
That was an amazing trip. We spent 3 days there. We at this time, I was working and friends with Scotty Lagacy, a local NASCAR
block,
driver.
yeah.
And we met up with Scotty up there, and just it was a good trip. Yeah. So I'm surprised you didn't do Indianapolis, Cincinnati, and North Carolina.
I mean the whole thing. I mean Indianapolis kind of sucked as a viewing track.
The track sucked, but in Indianapolis,
The Brickyard didn't work for you?
Brickyard was horrible. It was horrible. The venue is not a great place to watch a race, and we're spoiled because
you got Daytona.
We've been to Daytona, we've been to Bristol, which is
Right.
everything's right there, and even Atlanta's an easy place to watch a race, and Homestead, all great places to watch a race.
But Bristol's loud.
All of them are loud.
No, Bristol, it's only a half mile, and you're on top of the same amount of cars as you are on 2.5 miles.
Ooh, baby.
And it's pure thunder. We were fortunate enough to get in one of the boxes, which was way more
nice.
pleasant.
Yeah.
But Blake, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with our trip. I really, really enjoyed Cedar Point.
Oh, roller coasters.
Yeah, we stayed on Lake Erie in a cabin, and we've had some great trips. And we're very fortunate. We've been able to do some amazing trips as a family. But I really enjoyed roller coasters because the boys both like roller coasters. They were at the age where they can ride every ride.
Okay.
And
It must be this tall.
Yeah.
Took me a while to get there.
I just grab them and stretch them out a little
There
bit.
you go. Put you right on the rack, didn't it?
But I think the other one is our Mexico trip. Was a great trip.
Yeah. So we went to Anaheim first to stay at Great Wolf Lodge because originally it was Ty's pick to go to a Great Wolf Lodge.
Okay.
Then actually, my dad and I actually went to a New Japan Pro Wrestling show.
Great wrestling show.
Sumo?
No. It was
Professional wrestling.
Professional.
Oh, whoa.
Wrestling.
Oh, there you go.
Wrestling.
All right.
So or Southern people. Sumo? What is that?
Yeah, right. It's big fat Japanese boys.
Yeah, but
with
that
diapers.
That was a great trip, and then we went to Cabo. We cruised down to Cabo, and came back.
The pizza could have been better.
The brilliant thing about Cabo
food was terrible.
is when you're there, you know exactly where you are in the world and where you are on a map. It's so identifiable, and it's there. You get the arch at the end. You're Tierra del Fuego. You're at the end of the world.
Yeah.
And it's there.
And I've enjoyed both we went to Mexico twice.
Yeah.
I enjoyed both our Mexico trips.
To be honest, the only thing I remember from Cabo was we ate Haagen-Dazs and some guy in a tin suit grabbed my hand. It took me in for a picture.
Oh, yeah. And then we had to give him a tip. And when we went to Vegas, I warned him. I was like, don't stop for him.
Nobody.
No, just eye forward.
Right. No.
You see him do this.
Right.
Keep moving
Exactly.
forward. And we've had some amazing Vegas trips. And my favorite place still to go to this day is Anegada. And that was Anegada, the British Virgin Islands. And that was one of the ones that we drew out of a hat. And the way we used to do our family vacations is each one of us had 4 destinations in our own hat.
Okay.
Whichever one you drew out of the hat, you put in the big hat.
Okay.
And then you drew out of the hat. And we did it the year before, so if we had to save money, that's where we went. And there was no arguing. There was no... That's a
very good way to do that.
Where we went.
That's a very good way to do that.
I'll be damned if Ty didn't win, 3 out of the 6 years?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because you guys don't know.
I don't think I ever won,
You guys don't know that he tapes it to the side of the hat. You guys got to pay attention better. I'm just saying.
And be honest, what was your reaction when Africa was pulled out? Because that was mine.
I was like, holy shnikes, that's going to cost a lot of money.
Yeah, but you also already said it was one of your best trips ever.
It was the most incredible trip we've had. And I can tell you, whatever money we spent on that, and it was a lot. And we probably spent more money on shots than most people would do on a regular family vacation.
Right.
But I can tell you...
It was worth it.
It was so worth it. Just the life experience of having that. Blake bonded with them, a stupid zebra. Like, they would wake him up. They would wake up every morning, and this zebra wouldn't let anyone else get close to him, but Blake could get within 5 feet of this zebra. Completely wild zebra. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. I got to say, if I can throw in one more, I would say our most recent trip to Croatia was fabulous. My wife put together a phenomenal trip. We had transfers between each city. We had guides in each city. We had first-class hotels. Yeah. It was one of the most comfortable trips I've ever done. Plus, Croatia, it's a little bit Slavic. It's a little bit Balkan. It's a little bit Italian. Everybody speaks English because they learn it in school. The food was fabulous, and it was just a magical trip. I was so proud of the trip my wife put together. She did such a great job. It was so comfortable.
Yeah.
And if you're a Game of Thrones fan, go to Croatia. Between Splits and Dubrovnik, you got it.
All right, guess what, Lenny?
We're done?
That's the end of our show. Me and Blake are actually going on vacation today.
Wow. Safe travels,
boys.
We're
going to New York. We're going to Boston, catching some baseball games. Mike Trout hopefully gets to play, and we get to watch him play.
Hold on, Dad, but we need to hurry up because I just realized our flight leaves in 40 minutes.
We got to go get on the flight.
Well, get out of here, boys, as they say, give my regards to Broadway.
Yes, we're gonna be staying in Times Square, and then we're going straight to Boston by train on Saturday. So I want to say thank you to all our sponsors. Please hit that share button. We appreciate you guys so much. Spread the word about Bollox Talks and Tangents. Let people know. Hopefully you laughed and learned.
Share our fun.
Yeah. So, Lenny, thank you.
Always.
Blake, thank you. Bye-bye.